You are listening to The Vocal Technologist. Spoken tech for your ears.
If you're trying to plan your next quarter and you feel like the industry has already launched 3 versions beyond whatever you're budgeting for, trust me, you are not alone. It feels less like an evolution these days and a lot more like a constant high-velocity rebuild.
It really does.
So we've pulled together some of the latest thinking, some of the key data points on, the state of product and user experience design right now. Our mission today is to really unpack the biggest shifts that are happening, from the smallest component in a design system all the way up to, well, the White House.
And it really does feel like an inflection point. The speed of AI, of automation, it isn't just optimizing jobs anymore. It's radically redefining what design even means.
How so?
Well, it's moved from being a purely aesthetic thing or maybe a functional discipline to fundamentally restructuring how society and these huge organizations operate. It's actually becoming a tool for governance.
Okay, let's unpack that because that's a huge statement. When you talk about restructuring governance, we have to start with, I think, the most surprising confirmation we saw, the elevation of design to the highest level of the U.S. government. Joe Gebbia, co-founder of Airbnb, is officially America's first chief design officer, a CDO.
That's just massive news. And not just for the tech industry, but for civic service itself.
Absolutely. So Gebbia is now leading this new thing, the National Design Studio.
And he reports directly to the White House Chief of Staff, Susie Wiles. Think about that for a second. That reporting structure. This isn't some role tucked away in an IT subdepartment.
No, this is direct cabinet-level attention.
Yeah, exactly.
And the mandate seems pretty clear. Modernize government websites and just fundamentally improve how citizens interact with federal services. Why is this so symbolically important right now?
Well, it finally solidifies what design pioneers have been arguing for, like, decades. David Kelly, one of the foremost proponents of human-centered design, he said design has moved from the kids' table to the adult table.
I love that phrase.
It's perfect, right? It's no longer seen as this nice-to-have visual layer. It's an essential process for solving major public access problems, and it's sitting right alongside business strategy and core tech.
So while Washington is formalizing design leadership, the corporate giants are in the middle of a massive land grab to fortify their own AI positions.
Oh, absolutely. We saw Adobe, who have been historically dominant in creative tools, make a huge strategic play.
The plan to acquire Semrush for a reported $1.9 billion.
Yes, and that is so significant because it really defines the new battleground.
Yeah.
Adobe's goal here is explicit. They want to strengthen their AI-enhanced marketing suite.
By adding deep SEO insights. But why does a creative suite need SEO so badly?
Because the whole idea of visibility has changed. We're moving so fast toward a world where visibility isn't just about traditional organic search. Not anymore.
Correct.
It's achieved by being understood and prioritized by the generative AI models that are synthesizing information and, generating search results on the fly. Adobe needs those Semrush tools to make sure their customers' content is, legible to the AI agents. It's both a defensive and an offensive move.
And speaking of massive ambition, the foundational AI race is just escalating at a ridiculous scale.
Get this. Luma AI just raised $900 million.
Pushing their total funding over $1 billion. And that capital, which is led by Saudi-backed Humane, is for advancing large-scale, what they call world models.
Yeah, world models sounds almost like science fiction, doesn't it? But it fundamentally means creating AI that's capable of understanding the physics, the interactions, the causal relationships of the real world, not just processing text and images.
So that billion-dollar investment really just underscores the ambition here, to build the AI equivalent of a simulated reality.
Pretty much. And that kind of capital, that ambition, it has a very predictable effect on talent. We are seeing a really distinct brain drain towards generative tech.
We are. The departure of the industrial designer Abhidur Chaudhry, known for his work on the iPhone Air, from Apple to some unnamed AI startup, that's a huge signal.
It's a signal of a much wider talent migration. The most cutting-edge designers, they aren't just looking for better tools anymore. They're moving to where the very definition of a product is being completely rewritten.
And that right there is the perfect segue, isn't it? Because it's not just about who makes a product, but the process of making it.
This is where we start to see the most staggering efficiency claims. You have to look at the strategic collaboration between ServiceNow and Figma.
Build agent.
Yes, the build agent.
Uh-huh.
They claim it can take a Figma design link as a prompt and automatically generate a secure, functional enterprise application.
Not a prototype, a working application.
A working application.
An entire functioning app from a single design file. The claim is that this automation can reduce the initial UI and data model implementation time by over 80%.
Over 80%. That's not just a slight improvement. That is an existential change to the relationship between front-end developers and designers.
It is. It's game-changing for speed, but it immediately raises a really important question. What's the unseen cost of that speed? Which brings us to what's being called the AI memory paradox.
Right.
So tell us what that is, because it sounds like you're saying AI remembering everything is a bad thing.
In many cases, it absolutely is. AI systems operate with this infinite perfect memory. They're constantly optimizing for your comfort based on past behaviors. The paradox is that if the system never lets you diverge, you're essentially trapped in an outdated version of yourself.
Like recommendation algorithms that just keep suggesting the same movies you liked 5 years ago.
Exactly. It stifles your taste, your evolution. Human forgetting is actually crucial for adaptation, for creativity. We shed old habits, we make space for new ideas, and AI just doesn't do that naturally.
So how does a UX designer solve a problem that's kind of baked into the tech itself?
You have to intentionally design for what we might call sketchpad memory. This means building flexible memory interfaces with things like clear expiration dates and revision tools.
So you, the user, can explicitly say, forget these preferences.
Yes. Wipe the history of this task after a month. It counteracts that stagnation caused by infinite optimization. It's designing for deliberate amnesia, in a way.
And that fear of stagnation, of creating something technically perfect but hollow, that's being reflected across the industry.
It is. Studies are showing that designers are the most wary of what they call soulless AI creativity. They report lower daily use and have greater fears about losing originality compared to, say, writers or illustrators.
They value that spark of human judgment.
The most. Which is why it's so vital to focus on the balance. AI isn't just about replacement. It's proving to be an invaluable co-pilot for the more mundane stuff.
Like for UX researchers.
Exactly. They're using generative tools to streamline critical but administrative tasks, structuring research plans, transcribing interviews, speeding up data analysis, and that automation frees up their time for what truly remains human and essential: judgment, creativity, and empathy.
Okay, so we've covered the big institutional shifts and the workflow acceleration. Let's drill down into the fundamentals, because no matter how fast an AI generates an app, if the underlying principles are weak, the product fails. Let's start with component architecture.
When you're building products at scale, you have this constant tension, right? You need ironclad consistency across your components.
But designers and developers also need flexibility to create unique layouts.
Without breaking the core system. And that tension is resolved with the concept of slots in design systems.
Explain what slots are.
So slots are just designated, well-defined areas within a standard component, like a card or a modal window, that let you insert custom content. The surrounding layout, the styling, that stays consistent, but the content inside can be customized.
So it's the best of both worlds, balancing constraints with customization.
Precisely. And it's a huge sign of maturity that Figma is now adding native support for this. It's becoming a standard.
Okay, shifting from the structure to what the user actually sees. Good visual design. The research we've looked at consistently points to 4 core principles.
And it's all about reducing cognitive load. First, you align all your elements to a grid. It creates stability. Second, you establish a crystal clear typographic hierarchy. And, kind of counterintuitively, that often means limiting yourself to only 3 type sizes.
Less is genuinely more in that case.
It is. Third, use intentional color palettes. That usually means a very limited, often monochromatic selection, maybe 2 main colors. And finally, use purposeful, brand-conveying imagery that actually enhances the message, not just adds clutter.
You can see that balance on sites like seed.com or Flamingo Estate. Beautifully done. But the industry has had to learn some hard lessons recently about what happens when you prioritize that minimalism over actual function.
You're talking about Google's Material 3 Expressive update?
A major course correction.
A huge one. For years, rigid flat design stripped away crucial visual signifiers. Subtle shadows, containment, things you need to identify what's clickable. It was visually pure, but a functional disaster for many users.
Research showed it just made it harder to complete key tasks. So what was the fix from the Material 3 team?
The fix was to restore the strategic use of that containment, of color, contrast, and shading, what we call affordances. They tested this correction with, I think, 18,000 participants. The results were astounding.
What'd they find?
That strategic restoration of those cues reduces key action discovery time by a factor of 4. 4 times faster. It's a massive lesson that you cannot sacrifice intuitive interaction at the altar of minimalism.
And speaking of seamless functionality, that brings up the state pattern, that collaboration between designers and developers.
Oh, this is an architectural must-have for trustworthy UX. The state pattern dictates how an application changes its appearance and behavior based on internal state changes.
Like during a checkout process.
Exactly. You transition from a validating state to a success state, or maybe a payment failed error state.
And why is that intense collaboration so important there? Can't a developer just wire that up?
They can, but if the designer doesn't account for all those states loading, success, various errors, empty data, the developer has to invent a UI to fill the gaps. When those transitions are mapped out meticulously together, you get a predictable, seamless UX. It prevents confusion and builds a product that feels robust.
Let's move to that final layer, the psychology of how people actually perceive the interface, the silent language of design.
Every intuitive interface relies on the principles of Gestalt psychology. Things like proximity, similarity, continuity. They're basically the grammar behind human perception. If elements are close together, we just assume they're related. That's proximity.
And when that grammar is intentionally violated, you get those infuriating dark patterns. We saw a really harmful example in an airline app.
A terrible failure of visual hierarchy. The app used a misleading green check mark next to the check-in button.
Signaling success. Green means go.
Exactly, the Gestalt principle of similarity. Green equals success. But the low contrast text right next to it said the action had actually failed. The dominant visual cue, the green check mark, completely overwrote the factual text.
So the user thought they were checked in, and then they got a fine.
A 48 euro fee. That is a crystal clear case where poor design didn't just frustrate a user, it actively cost them money.
It shows how powerful Gestalt is and how easily it can be exploited when you disregard ethical design.
Immensely powerful.
Now, in the age of generative agents, we're seeing AI develop more complex, kind of segmented personas to try and optimize that psychological interaction with us.
That's a fascinating design choice. Look at ChatGPT 5.1's dual modes. They've explicitly segmented the agent. GPT 5.1 Instant is warmer, more conversational for quick tasks.
While GPT 5.1 Thinking is for deeper, slower reasoning.
They're trying to tailor the AI's persona for the task itself.
And it's no longer just a private tool. It's moving into the shared social space with the rollout of ChatGPT group chats.
Right, up to 20 people can collaborate with the assistant. This is a design decision aimed squarely at moving the AI from a personal notepad to a social entity, a facilitator for group planning. The interaction model is becoming communal.
I think it's right to circle back to that core human insight from David Kelly here, that creativity is innate. The designer's job isn't so much to teach creativity as it is to remove the psychological blocks that suppress it.
And if we lose sight of that human core, that need for intuition, for emotion, for the ability to adapt and even forget, we risk creating products that are exquisitely efficient but fundamentally lack a soul, or the ability to help the user grow. And that is a critical tension running through the whole industry right now.
This has been an absolutely essential exploration. We've covered major ground, from Joe Gebbia's new political power in Washington to the corporate scramble for AI. We looked at how AI is radically accelerating workflows, but also introducing these new psychological traps like needing to design for amnesia. And at the end of the day, success still hinges on mastering those fundamental principles.
So the challenge for you, whether you're a designer, a developer, a product leader, is grappling with that tension between speed and soul. We are generating applications faster than ever, but that speed can lead to shallow experiences, to overproduction. We're moving at light speed, but we have to apply wisdom at that speed.
Which brings us to our final thought, a provocative question for you to chew on as you get back to your work. If major companies, using that build agent technology we talked about, can now generate fully functional enterprise apps from a Figma link in a matter of minutes, does the fundamental value of the professional designer shift entirely? Does it move away from making the thing, from the implementation and the pixel pushing, to rigorously questioning the necessity and the human cost of the thing in the first place? Food for thought. Thank you for joining us for this crucial conversation on the state of design. We'll catch you next time.
Spoken Tech, for your ears.